The rumble of the Harley-Davidson street glide echoed through the empty streets of Ashwood, Oregon, cutting through the October night like a blade through silk. Marcus Kane, 62 years old, leaned into the curve of Willow Creek Road, his weathered hands gripping the handlebars with the practiced ease of 4 decades on two wheels. The LED streetlights cast moving shadows across his face, illuminating the deep lines etched by time, violence, and hard living. His beard, cropped short and silver white, caught the amber glow as he passed under each light. Long hair, the color of aged steel, hung in a tight ponytail down his back, secured with a leather tie that had seen better years. On his broad back, the leather vest bore the sacred symbols of his life: the Hells Angels death head patch, the 1% diamond, the road captain rocker that marked 20 years of service to the Brotherhood. The night air bit cold against his face, each breath forming small clouds of vapor that disappeared into the darkness behind him. Marcus had just left the chapter meeting at the clubhouse. 3 brutal hours of argument and tension that still sat heavy in his chest like undigested food. Vincent Castellano, the vice president, had pushed his new business proposal again. The same dirty money schemes that made Marcus's stomach turn. Hell's Angels had always lived by a code: loyalty, brotherhood, honor among thieves, if you wanted to call it that. But Vincent wanted to transform the club into something else entirely. Something that looked more like the cartels than the motorcycle club Marcus had joined 40 years ago when he was barely old enough to drink legally. The memory of Vincent's words echoed in Marcus's mind as he throttled down, approaching his neighborhood. That smooth voice, dripping with contempt disguised as reason. "The world is changing, Hammer," Vincent had said, using Marcus's road name like a weapon. "Either we evolve or we die. Your generation had its time. This is ours now." Marcus had kept his mouth shut during the meeting, knowing that speaking would only make things worse. But the anger had built up inside him like steam in a pressure cooker, threatening to explode. At 62, he had learned when to fight and when to wait. Tonight had been a night for waiting. His house appeared ahead, a single-story wood-frame structure painted a faded blue that looked gray in the darkness. He had bought this place with his wife Margaret back in 1995, when their daughter Sophia was just a newborn. The house had been bright yellow then, full of hope and promise. Now it stood quiet and worn, like Marcus himself. He killed the engine and sat for a moment in the sudden silence, listening to the tick of cooling metal. Something felt wrong. The porch light was off. Sophia always left it on when she was waiting up for him, always had since she was old enough to reach the switch. Marcus swung his leg over the bike and stood, his right knee protesting the movement. Old injury from a bar fight in 2006, never healed quite right. He walked toward the front door, his boots crunching on the gravel driveway, each step measured and careful. The smell hit him as soon as he opened the door. The familiar sense of leather and old wood, yes, but something else underneath. Something wrong. Fear had a smell, sharp and acrid, and it permeated the darkness of his home like smoke from a fire you cannot see. "Sophia," he called out, his voice deeper than usual, roughened by 40 years of cigarettes he had quit 5 years ago, but still paid for every day. The sound that answered him made his blood run cold. A sob, muffled and broken, coming from upstairs, from Sophia's room. Marcus had lived a hard life. He had been shot twice, stabbed 4 times, and beaten more times than he could count. He had seen men die in front of him, had held brothers as they bled out on dirty pavement. He had looked into the eyes of killers and never flinched. But that sound, that broken cry from his daughter, froze him in place for 3 full heartbeats. Then he was moving, taking the stairs 2 at a time despite his bad knee, despite his 62 years. The hallway stretched before him like a tunnel, and his daughter's door stood half open and warm light spilling out into the darkness. Marcus pushed the door wide and stopped. Sophia sat on the floor beside her bed, knees drawn up to her chest, arms wrapped around herself like she was trying to hold her body together through sheer force of will. The bedside lamp cast shadows that made everything worse, that highlighted every detail Marcus wished he could unsee. Her right eye had swollen nearly shut, the skin around it a deep purple that bordered on black. Her lip was split, dried blood crusting at the corner of her mouth. Around her throat, finger-shaped bruises stood out stark against her pale skin, each one a testament to someone's grip, someone's violence, someone's hands on his daughter. "Sophia," Marcus whispered, but the word came out strangled, broken in a way his voice had not been broken in 40 years. She looked up at him, and the pain in her eyes hit him harder than any punch he had ever taken. "Dad," she said, and started crying again, great heaving sobs that shook her whole body. Marcus crossed the room in 2 strides and dropped to his knees beside her, his massive calloused hands hovering over her shoulders, afraid to touch, afraid to cause more pain. These hands had hurt so many people. These hands had broken bones and drawn blood. But they trembled now, unsure how to offer comfort without causing harm. "Who did this to you?" he asked, though he already knew. He knew because there was only one person it could be. Only one person who had access, who had opportunity, who Sophia trusted enough to let close. "Dylan," she whispered through her tears. "But Dad, you have to understand." He kept saying, I'm sorry the whole time. Like someone was making him. Like he did not want to. Marcus felt rage building inside him, white hot and pure. The kind of anger that made men do terrible things. But he forced it down, forced himself to stay calm, to be what Sophia needed right now. A father, not a Hell's Angel, not Hammer, the road captain who had earned his nickname by putting a hammer through a rival gang member's kneecap. Just a father. "I'm going to kill him," Marcus said, quiet and certain. "No," Sophia grabbed his arm, her fingers digging in with surprising strength. "Dad, listen to me. He said someone made him do it. He kept saying they will kill me if I don't." He was terrified. This was not Dylan. Someone forced him. Marcus stared at his daughter, processing her words. "Who is they?" "I don't know," Sophia shook her head, fresh tears spilling down her cheeks. "But Dad, something is really wrong. This was not just Dylan being violent. Someone did this to him, made him do this to me." Marcus stood slowly, his mind already working through the possibilities. 40 years in the Hells Angels had taught him how power worked, how fear worked, how leverage worked. Someone had leverage on Dylan Parker, the 22-year-old college kid who had been dating his daughter for 18 months. Someone scared Dylan badly enough to make him hurt the girl he supposedly loved. Marcus pulled out his phone and dialed Clara Bennett. She answered on the third ring, her voice thick with sleep. "Clara, it's Marcus. I need you to come get Sophia." "Now, what happened?" Clara asked, instantly awake. "Just come," Marcus said, "please." 20 minutes later, Clara arrived in her aging Honda Civic, still wearing her bathrobe over her nightgown, gray hair uncombed, eyes wide with concern. She was 55, had been Margaret's best friend since high school, and treated Sophia like the daughter she never had. When she saw Sophia's face, Clara gasped and immediately gathered the girl into her arms. "Oh, honey, oh, sweetheart. She will stay with you for a few days," Marcus said, his voice flat and hard. "Until I handle this." Clara looked at him over Sophia's head, and he saw the fear in her eyes. "Marcus, don't do anything stupid. Call the police. I will handle it my way." "That's what I'm afraid of," Clara said quietly. Marcus watched them leave, Clara's arm around Sophia's shoulders, guiding her to the car. Sophia turned back once, looking at her father with eyes that held too much pain for 19 years old. "Dad," she called out, "promise me you won't do anything that will take you away from me." Marcus could not make that promise, so he said nothing. He just raised his hand in a wave that felt like goodbye. When the taillights disappeared around the corner, Marcus stood alone in the cold darkness of his front yard. The wind picked up, cutting through his leather vest, but he barely felt it. Inside him, something had shifted. A line had been crossed that could never be uncrossed. Dylan Parker lived in a modern apartment complex on the east side of Ashwood, one of those 4-story glass and steel buildings that charged too much rent and catered to young professionals and college students with wealthy parents. Judge Parker's son certainly qualified on both counts. Marcus knew the building well. He had dropped Sophia off there more times than he could count, always waiting until she was safely inside before driving away. He knew the security keypad code was broken on the back entrance, had been for months. He knew Dylan's apartment was on the 3rd floor, number 3C. At 2:30 in the morning, the building stood quiet and dark except for a few scattered windows still lit against the night. Marcus parked his Harley in the shadows and approached on foot, his boots making no sound on the concrete. The back door opened with the slightest pressure. Inside, the hallway stretched long and sterile under fluorescent lights that hummed with electricity. The carpet muffled his footsteps as he walked toward the elevator, but he took the stairs instead. Always better to control your own exit route, 3rd floor. The hallway here matched the one below, all neutral beige and corporate blandness. Number 3C, the door stood slightly ajar. Marcus felt his senses sharpen, that old combat awareness kicking in. An open door at 2:30 in the morning meant something bad. His hand moved instinctively to his belt, where he kept a knife with a 4-inch blade. Not for attacking, for defense. Always for defense. He pushed the door open with the back of his hand, careful not to touch the handle or leave prints. The hinges squeaked softly. The apartment beyond lay in darkness except for the blue glow of a muted television showing ESPN highlights. The smell hit him immediately. Blood, recent, and something else. Gunpowder. Faint but unmistakable. Marcus's eyes adjusted to the dim light, taking in the scene. The living room looked like a tornado had hit it. The sofa lay overturned, cushions slashed open with white stuffing spilling out. The coffee table had been flipped, its glass top shattered into 1,000 pieces scattered across the cream-colored carpet. A floor lamp lay broken, its shade crushed flat. And blood. Not a lot, but enough. Dark stains on the carpet, still slightly damp when Marcus knelt and touched them with 2 fingers. 3 to 4 hours old, he estimated. Right around the time Dylan would have been with Sophia. Marcus moved through the apartment with practiced caution, clearing each room. The bedroom showed signs of hasty searching, but not the violence of the living room. Closet doors hung open, clothes still on hangers. Dresser drawers pulled out, but not emptied. Whoever had taken Dylan had not given him time to pack. Under the overturned coffee table, Marcus found an iPhone with a shattered screen. He picked it up carefully, using his sleeve. The phone lit up despite the damage, and he scrolled through recent messages. The last text made his blood run cold. "You know what we've done. Handle the girl or you're next." Sent at 6:43 p.m. No name, just a contact saved as V for Vincent. Marcus stood in the destroyed living room, the pieces falling into place with sickening clarity. Vincent had ordered this. Vincent had threatened Dylan, forced him to hurt Sophia as some kind of message or test or insurance policy. But why? What had Dylan seen or heard or stumbled into that made him a threat worth neutralizing? Marcus searched the apartment more thoroughly now, looking for answers. In the bedroom, under the bed, he found a laptop. A Dell, older model, password screen cracked but still functional. He opened it, expecting security, but Dylan had not even set up a login. Amateur, Marcus thought, but it made his job easier. The most recent document open was an unsent email, addressed to Sophia, dated yesterday, timestamp 6:14 p.m., 29 minutes before the threatening text. Marcus read it, and with each word his understanding shifted. "Sophia, if you are reading this, I am already gone. They found out I saw something I should not have. At the docks, last Tuesday night. I cannot tell you what, but it is bad. Really bad. They said if I do not make an example with you, they will kill my father. I cannot let that happen, but I cannot hurt you either. I tried to run. They caught me. Now they are making me choose. You are my father. I am so sorry. I love you. Forgive me. Dylan." Marcus read it 3 times, letting the implications sink in. Dylan had witnessed something bad enough to get him killed. Something involving Vincent, based on the V initial in the text. And Vincent had given him an impossible choice: hurt Sophia or watch his father die. Dylan had chosen to hurt Sophia, hoping it would buy time. But they had taken him anyway. Marcus kept searching. In the laptop's documents folder, he found a hidden directory labeled insurance. Inside, 14 photographs. The images told a story Marcus had suspected, but hoped was not true. Vincent Castellano standing at Dock 12 of the Ashwood commercial port. Not alone. 8 men Marcus did not recognize. None of them Hell's Angels. All of them wearing the colors and patches of the Devil's Hand, a Seattle-based gang that dealt primarily in narcotics and human trafficking. The photos showed large wooden crates being unloaded from a shipping container. One image, zoomed in close, showed the inside of an open crate. Plastic-wrapped bundles. White powder visible through clear packaging. Heroin or fentanyl, Marcus could not tell from the photo, but it did not matter. Both were death in a bag. The final photo showed Vincent shaking hands with an older Asian man, probably late 60s, with intricate tattoos visible on his wrists and neck. Yakuza, Marcus recognized the style. This was bigger than he had thought. Vincent was not just dealing with the Devil's Hand. He was working with organized crime from multiple territories, building an empire outside the knowledge and approval of the Hells Angels leadership. And Dylan Parker, wrong place and wrong time, had photographed it all. Marcus's phone buzzed in his pocket, making him jump. Unknown number. He hesitated, then answered without speaking. "Hammer." Vincent's voice came through, smooth and cold. "Find anything interesting?" Marcus's jaw clenched so hard his teeth ached. "Where is Dylan?" "He and 8 of his friends are somewhere safe," Vincent said, learning an important lesson about keeping their mouths shut. 8 friends, 9 witnesses total, 9 college kids who had the misfortune of being at the docks last Tuesday night. You made him hurt my daughter. Your daughter is the daughter of a Hell's Angel, Vincent replied. I needed to make sure you understood the importance of loyalty, of silence. You have been with us 40 years, Hammer. You know the rules. Nobody talks. Nobody walks away. I never talked. But you are the one betraying the club. Vincent laughed, a sound like ice cracking. I am bringing the club into the 21st century. You and Eddie and the old guard, you live in the past. Your time is over. Let them go, the kids. They are not part of this. They saw too much. Vincent's voice hardened. But I am giving you a choice, Hammer. Keep quiet. Do not ask questions. Do not make trouble. And Sophia stays safe. But if you push this, if you go to the cops or the club leadership, I cannot guarantee anything. Those 9 kids might have an accident. Sophia might have another accident. Accidents happen. The line went dead. Marcus stood in the wreckage of Dylan's apartment, phone in hand, fury and helplessness warring inside him. 40 years he had lived by the Hells Angels code. Loyalty above all, never cooperate with police, handle problems internally, keep the Brotherhood's secrets even if it cost you everything. But that code was protecting a traitor now. That code was allowing Vincent to destroy innocent lives. That code demanded Marcus stay silent while 9 people, including the boy his daughter loved, faced torture or death. For the first time in 40 years, Marcus questioned whether the code was worth following. He left the apartment, descended the stairs, walked out into the cold night air. His Harley waited where he had left it, chrome gleaming under the streetlight. He had nowhere to go, not home, which felt empty and haunted, not the clubhouse where Vincent's people would be watching, somewhere he could think. Blue Moon Bar sat on the outskirts of Ashwood, Ashwood, a relic from the 1980s that had somehow survived gentrification in progress. The building was old brick, weathered and scarred, with neon beer signs in the windows and a gravel parking lot that crunched under Marcus's tires as he pulled in. 3:30 in the morning, but the lights were still on. Eddie Malone never closed before 4, even on slow nights. Marcus pushed through the heavy wooden door and stepped into warmth and dim lighting. The interior had not changed in 30 years. Dark wood paneling on the walls. Pool table in the back corner with a lamp hanging low over green felt. Jukebox in the far corner, currently playing something by Willie Nelson that Marcus did not recognize. The bar itself ran the length of the room, scarred oak with brass fixtures that had tarnished to a dull gold. Eddie stood behind the bar, wiping down glasses with a white towel. He looked up when Marcus entered, and his weathered face showed no surprise. Eddie was 68 years old, with thin white hair, a long beard that reached his chest, and arms still thick with muscle despite his age. He wore a red flannel shirt and Wrangler jeans, the same outfit he had worn every day for as long as Marcus had known him. Hammer, Eddie said, setting down the glass. 3:30 in the morning means trouble. Marcus walked to the bar and sat on a stool that creaked under his weight. Eddie poured 2 fingers of Jim Beam into a glass without being asked and slid it across the scarred wood. Heard about Sophia, Eddie said quietly. Clara called me an hour ago. Marcus drank the whiskey in one swallow, welcoming the burn. Dylan did it, but he was forced. Eddie's eyebrows rose fractionally. Forced how? Marcus told him everything. The email, the photos, Vincent's phone call, 9 missing witnesses, the devil's hand connection. The Yakuza. All of it. When he finished, Eddie was quiet for a long moment. He poured them both another drink, then came around the bar and sat on the stool next to Marcus. Vincent, Eddie said slowly, shaking his head. I knew he was dirty. But this is war. He is going to kill those kids, Marcus said. All 9 of them, to cover his tracks. Probably, Eddie agreed, unless someone stops him. The club code says I stay out of it, handle it internally, do not involve outsiders. Eddie drank his whiskey, then looked at Marcus with eyes that had seen too much and lived too long. Let me tell you a story, Hammer. Story I never told anyone. Marcus waited. 1979, Eddie began. I was 25, young and stupid and convinced the Hells Angels were my family. There was a guy, Ricky Morrison. Snake, we called him. Good kid. He found out that the sergeant-at-arms, Jimmy Cooper, was stealing from the club treasury. Ricky reported it to the president like he was supposed to. Eddie paused, staring at his glass. Jimmy had connections, Eddie continued. He planted evidence making it look like Ricky was the thief. Ricky got kicked out of the club. 3 months later, I found his body in the woods outside Bend. He had been tortured before they killed him. Jimmy did it to cover his own crimes. Marcus listened, understanding where this was going. I knew the truth, Eddie said softly. I knew Ricky was innocent, but I kept my mouth shut because of the code, because loyalty meant more than justice, because I was afraid. He looked at Marcus now, and his eyes held 45 years of regret. I dream about Ricky's face sometimes, Eddie said. He looks at me and asks why I did not tell the truth, why I let him die for nothing. I have been asking myself that same question for 45 years. This is different, Marcus said. Vincent is the vice president. If I move against him, the club will see me as a traitor. Will they? Eddie asked. Or will they see a man standing up for what is right? Vincent is the traitor here, Hammer. He is dealing with rival gangs, importing poison into our community, ordering violence against innocents. That is not what the Hells Angels are supposed to be about. We are a motorcycle club, not heroes. Eddie smiled sadly. No, we are not heroes, but we are supposed to be men of honor. That used to mean something. The jukebox switched songs. Merle Haggard now, singing about Mama Tried. Marcus listened to the lyrics and thought about his own mother, dead 20 years now, who had begged him not to join the Angels, who had warned him that loyalty to the wrong people would destroy him. What do I do? Marcus asked. It was a question he had not asked anyone in decades. What you already know you need to do, Eddie said. You go to the police. You give them the evidence. You save those 9 kids. And you live with whatever comes after. The club will kill me. Maybe, Eddie acknowledged, or maybe they will surprise you. Maybe enough people are sick of Vincent's games that they will stand with you. Either way, you do not have a choice. Not if you want to look your daughter in the eye again. Not if you want to sleep at night. Marcus thought about Sophia, about the bruises on her throat, about the pain in her eyes, about the way she had looked at him when she got into Clara's car, like she was trying to memorize his face in case she never saw him again. He thought about Dylan, 22 years old, forced to choose between the girl he loved and his own father's life. About 8 other kids whose only crime was being in the wrong place at the wrong time. He thought about Margaret, his wife, dead 10 years now. She had made him promise, on her deathbed, that he would always do right by Sophia, that he would be the father their daughter deserved, not the criminal her father had chosen to become. I will do it, Marcus said. I will go to the FBI. Tomorrow. Today, he corrected, glancing at the clock. It was almost 4 in the morning. Eddie nodded slowly. You are doing the right thing, Hammer. The hard thing, but the right thing. It might be the last thing I ever do. Then at least you go out like a man, Eddie said, not like a coward who let kids die to save his own skin. Marcus finished his drink and stood. His body ached, all 62 years weighing heavy on bones and joints that had taken too much punishment over too long. But his mind felt clearer than it had in years. He knew what he had to do. Thank you, Eddie. Do not thank me yet, Eddie said. Wait until you are still alive in a week. Then we will celebrate. Marcus walked out into the pre-dawn darkness. The sky had begun to lighten in the east, that deep blue that comes before sunrise. Birds were starting to wake up, their calls cutting through the quiet. He climbed onto his Harley but did not start it immediately. Instead, he sat there feeling the cold metal beneath him, smelling the oil and gasoline, hearing the ticking of the engine as it cooled. This motorcycle had been his companion for 15 years. He had ridden it across 18 states, had raced it down highways at speeds that would have gotten him arrested, had used it to escape from fights and to chase down enemies. It was more than transportation. It was part of his identity. After tomorrow, he might never ride it again. The Hells Angels would take his patch, his colors, his membership. They might take his life. But at least Sophia would know her father had chosen her over everything else. At least Dylan and 8 other kids might get to live. Marcus started the engine, and it roared to life like a beast waking from sleep. He headed toward home, toward the empty house where Sophia's room still held her things, where Margaret's photograph still hung on the walls, where 40 years of his life was stored in boxes and memories. The sunrise caught him halfway there, orange and pink spreading across the eastern sky like a promise, or a warning. Marcus was not sure which. He had made his choice. Now he would live with the consequences. The house felt different when he entered it at dawn, emptier somehow, though nothing had physically changed. Marcus walked through the rooms, looking at everything with new eyes. The photos on the wall showing Sophia growing up from infant to teenager to young woman. The chair where Margaret used to sit and read. The kitchen table where they had eaten thousands of meals as a family. In Sophia's room, he stood in the doorway and looked at her things. Posters on the walls from bands he did not recognize. Textbooks stacked on her desk from classes at the community college. A teddy bear on her pillow that he had won for her at the state fair when she was 7 years old. He had failed to protect her. The one job that mattered more than anything, keeping his daughter safe. And he had failed. But he could still save Dylan. Could still save 8 other people's children. Could still do one decent thing before the bill for his 40 years came due. Marcus went to his bedroom and opened the closet. In the back, behind his boots and leather jackets, sat a lockbox. He opened it with the key he kept on a chain around his neck. Inside, his important documents: birth certificate, marriage license, Margaret's death certificate, Sophia's birth certificate, and underneath all of that, a loaded 9mm Glock. He had owned it for 20 years and never fired it except at the range. He checked it now, confirmed it was loaded, and tucked it into his waistband. Not to use, just to have, just in case. His phone showed 7:14 a.m. The FBI field office in Portland opened at 8. He would be there when the doors opened, would hand over everything. The photos, Dylan's email, the locations, names, all of it. And then whatever happened, happened. Marcus showered and changed into clean clothes. Not his riding leathers, not his Hell's Angels vest, just jeans and a black t-shirt and a denim jacket. He looked at himself in the mirror and barely recognized the man staring back. When had he gotten so old? When had his beard gone completely white? When had the lines around his eyes gotten so deep? 62 years old, most of them wasted on the wrong things. But maybe it was not too late to get one thing right. His phone rang. "Clara." "Marcus," she said when he answered. "Sophia wants to talk to you." There was rustling, then Sophia's voice, still rough from crying. "Dad." "Hey, baby girl. I know what you are going to do," Sophia said. "Clara told me." Marcus closed his eyes. "I have to." "I know," Sophia said. "And Dad, I am proud of you. Mom would be proud too." Those words hit harder than Vincent's threats, harder than Eddie's story, harder than anything. Marcus had spent 40 years being someone Margaret had barely been able to tolerate, someone she had loved, despite his choices rather than because of them. And now Sophia was saying Margaret would be proud. "I love you, sweetheart," Marcus said. "Whatever happens, remember that." "I will," Sophia promised. "Be careful." The line went dead. Marcus gathered everything he needed: the laptop with the photos, screenshots of the threatening text on Dylan's phone, a written statement he had composed describing what he knew about Vincent's operation. All of it went into a backpack. At 7:45, he walked out of his house for what might be the last time. The morning sun had burned off the mist, leaving everything clear and bright. His Harley sat waiting, chrome gleaming, leather seat worn to fit his body exactly. He straddled the bike and started the engine. The familiar rumble vibrated through him, steady and strong. For a moment, he just sat there, eyes closed, breathing in the smell of exhaust and morning air. Then he opened his eyes, put the bike in gear, and rode toward Portland, toward the FBI, toward the end of everything he had known for 40 years. The road stretched before him, empty and quiet. Marcus pushed the Harley faster, eating up the miles between Ashwood and Portland. The wind whipped his hair, stung his eyes, made his beard stream behind him. He thought about calling Vincent, warning him that the end was coming. But that would give the man time to run, time to kill the hostages, time to cover his tracks. Better to let the FBI move quickly, hit hard, give Vincent no chance to react. Marcus hoped the 9 kids were still alive, hoped Vincent had kept them somewhere secure, using them as leverage rather than eliminating them immediately. Hoped he was not about to trade his life for corpses. But even if he was, even if all 9 were already dead, he had to try, had to take the shot, had to stand up and say, "This is wrong, and I will not be part of it anymore." The Portland skyline appeared on the horizon, glass and steel towers rising against the morning sky. Marcus had been to this city 100 times, mostly for club business, mostly for things he would rather forget. Now he was coming here to betray everything the club stood for, or to uphold what it should have stood for all along: honor, protecting the innocent, standing against evil even when it wore familiar colors. The FBI field office occupied a modern building downtown, all concrete and security cameras and reinforced glass. Marcus parked the Harley in a visitor spot and sat for a moment, gathering his courage. This was it, the moment of no return. Once he walked through those doors, once he started talking, everything changed forever. He thought of Sophia one more time, saw her face bruised and broken, looking up at him with eyes that held too much pain. Heard her voice saying, "I am proud of you, Dad." That was enough. Marcus grabbed his backpack, climbed off the bike, and walked toward the entrance. His reflection moved across the glass doors, a tall man in denim and leather, walking like he was heading into battle, which in a way, he was. The security guard at the desk looked up as Marcus approached. His hand moved subtly toward his sidearm, recognizing the signs of someone who had lived hard and dangerous. "Can I help you?" the guard asked. "I need to speak to someone about organized crime," Marcus said. "I have information about drug trafficking, kidnapping, and murder, and I am willing to testify." The guard's eyes widened slightly. He picked up a phone, spoke quietly into it, then looked back at Marcus. "Someone will be right down. Please have a seat." Marcus sat in a chair that faced the door, old habit. Always watch the exit. Always know your escape route, even when there was nowhere left to run. 10 minutes later, a woman in a dark suit appeared from an elevator. She was maybe 40, with short brown hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She walked with the confidence of someone who carried a gun and knew how to use it. "Mr. Kane," she said, "I am Special Agent Sarah Chen. I understand you have information for us." Marcus stood. "I do, but I need something in return." Agent Chen raised an eyebrow. "We do not usually negotiate with walk-ins." "I am not asking for money," Marcus said. "I am asking for witness protection for my daughter, and immunity from prosecution for anything I tell you about my past. I will give you everything you need to take down a major drug operation and rescue 9 hostages. But I need to know my daughter is safe." Agent Chen studied him for a long moment, those sharp eyes taking in every detail. The Hells Angels tattoos visible on his forearms, the hard lines of his face, the tension in his shoulders that said he was ready for violence even here, even now. "Come with me," she said finally. "Let us talk." They rode the elevator to the 7th floor in silence. Agent Chen led him to an interview room, small and windowless, with a table and 4 chairs and a camera mounted in the corner. "The camera is off," she said, gesturing to a chair. "For now, tell me what you have." Marcus sat down and opened his backpack. He laid out the laptop, the screenshots, his written statement. Then he started talking. He told her about Vincent Castellano and the Hells Angels, about the Devil's Hand connection, about the Yakuza involvement, about Dylan Parker and 8 other college students who witnessed a drug transaction they should never have seen. He told her about Sophia, about the bruises and the tears, and the way Dylan had been forced to choose between the girl he loved and his father's life. He gave her names, dates, locations, everything he knew and everything he suspected. 40 years of knowledge about how the Hells Angels operated, all of it spilling out in a confession that could never be taken back. Agent Chen listened without interrupting, taking notes on a legal pad, her face showing nothing. When Marcus finished, she sat back and looked at him. "This is substantial," she said. "If even half of what you are telling me checks out, we can move on this immediately." "The hostages," Marcus said. "They have to be your priority. Vincent will kill them as soon as he knows I talked." "We will coordinate with local law enforcement," Agent Chen promised. "But I need to be clear about something, Mr. Kane. The immunity you are asking for, that is not something I can guarantee on my own. That decision comes from higher up." "I understand," Marcus said. "But my daughter gets protection. That is not negotiable." Agent Chen nodded slowly. "I can arrange protective custody for her. Today. Right now if needed." "Do it," Marcus said. She left the room and Marcus sat alone with his thoughts. The camera in the corner stared down at him like an unblinking eye. He wondered if this was what confession felt like for religious people. This weight lifting, this sense of having finally told the truth after years of lies and silence. Agent Chen returned 20 minutes later with a manila folder. "We are moving forward," she said. "We have teams en route to 3 possible locations where the hostages might be held, and I have approval for limited immunity, pending your full cooperation and testimony." Marcus nodded. "When do we move?" "Within the hour," Agent Chen said. "But Mr. Kane, I need you to understand something. Vincent Castellano is not going to take this lying down. Even if we arrest him, even if we rescue the hostages, he has people loyal to him. The Hells Angels will see you as a traitor. Your life is going to be in danger for a very long time." "I know," Marcus said quietly. "I made my choice. Then let us make sure it counts for something," Agent Chen said. She left again, and Marcus sat in the interview room waiting. Time moved slowly, each minute stretching like hours. He thought about Dylan and the other 8, wondered where they were, whether they were still alive, whether the FBI would reach them in time. He thought about Sophia, safe with Clara, but probably terrified, waiting to hear if her father had just signed his own death warrant. He thought about Eddie, who would hear soon enough what Marcus had done, who would probably shake his head and pour himself a drink and say something about doing the right thing the hard way. And he thought about Margaret, 10 years dead, but still the loudest voice in his head. What would she say if she could see him now? Would she be proud? Would she forgive him for all the years he had chosen the club over his family? He liked to think she would. The door opened. Agent Chen entered with two other agents, both men in suits, both carrying the unmistakable bearing of federal law enforcement. "We found them," Agent Chen said, and Marcus felt his heart leap. "All 9. Alive. They are being transported to Portland Medical Center as we speak." "Thank God," Marcus breathed. "We also have Vincent Castellano in custody," she continued, along with 6 members of the Devil's Hand and 3 Hells Angels who were involved in the kidnapping. "It is over, Mr. Kane. You did it." Marcus felt tears sting his eyes, the first time he had cried since Margaret's funeral. Relief washed over him like a wave, threatening to pull him under. They were alive, all 9 of them. He had not been too late. "Can I see my daughter?" he asked. "Soon," Agent Chen promised. "First, we need to get you somewhere safe, and we need your formal statement on record." The next hours passed in a blur. More interviews, more questions, legal documents to sign, photos to identify, timelines to confirm. Marcus gave them everything, holding nothing back, burning every bridge behind him with brutal efficiency. By late afternoon, he was in a safe house on the outskirts of Portland, a nondescript apartment in a nondescript building with 2 U.S. Marshals standing guard outside. Agent Chen had arranged for Sophia to be brought there, and Marcus waited by the window, watching the street below, counting the minutes. When the knock finally came, he nearly ran to the door. Agent Chen stood there with Sophia beside her, and Marcus pulled his daughter into his arms and held her like he would never let go. "Dad," Sophia sobbed into his shoulder. "You did it. You saved him." Marcus just held her tighter, his own tears falling freely now. Behind them, Agent Chen quietly closed the door and left them alone. They stood like that for a long time, father and daughter, 2 people who had almost lost everything but found their way back to each other at the last possible moment. Finally, Sophia pulled back and looked up at him. "What happens now?" "I do not know," Marcus admitted. "I testified against the Hells Angels, against Vincent. I broke every code I lived by for 40 years. They will come for me eventually. Then we face it together," Sophia said firmly. "I am not losing you again, Dad. Not to them. Not to anyone." Marcus cupped her face in his hands, careful of the bruises that still marked her skin. "You are so much like your mother, so brave, so strong." "She learned it from you," Sophia said. Marcus was not sure about that, but sitting there in that safe house with his daughter alive and safe in his arms, with 9 other people free because he had finally done the right thing, he thought maybe Margaret would have been proud after all. Outside, the sun was setting, painting the Portland sky in shades of orange and gold. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. The trial, witness protection, a life completely different from everything he had known. But tonight, he had his daughter back, and 9 other families would not have to bury their children. It was enough, more than enough. 3 weeks after Marcus Kane walked into the FBI field office, the world he had known for 40 years lay in ruins around him. The trial of Vincent Castellano dominated local news, courtroom cameras capturing every moment of the proceedings. Marcus sat in the witness box for 6 brutal hours, answering questions from prosecutors and defense attorneys alike, his testimony cutting through Vincent's carefully constructed lies like a blade through paper. Vincent stared at him the entire time from the defense table, those cold eyes promising retribution, promising pain, promising that this betrayal would not go unanswered. Marcus stared back, unflinching. He had made his choice. He would live with whatever came next. The safe house felt like a cage. 2 bedrooms, a kitchen, a living room with furniture that looked borrowed from a hospital waiting room, everything clean and sterile and temporary. Sophia tried to make it feel like home, hanging pictures on the walls, cooking meals in the tiny kitchen, but they both knew this was not living. This was surviving. The U.S. Marshals rotated shifts outside their door. 2 at all times, armed and watchful, scanning every person who entered the building, checking every car that parked on the street below. Marcus appreciated their vigilance, but he knew the truth. If the Hells Angels wanted him dead badly enough, no amount of protection would stop them forever. Dylan Parker visited twice in those first 3 weeks. The young man looked different now, older somehow, the easy confidence he had carried before replaced by something harder, more wary. The first visit, he stood in the doorway and could not meet Marcus's eyes. "I am so sorry," Dylan said, voice cracking, "for what I did to Sophia." For all of this, Marcus had thought he would feel anger when he saw Dylan again, rage at the hands that had hurt his daughter. But looking at this broken kid, barely 22 years old, forced into an impossible situation by evil men, he felt only pity. "You were a victim too," Marcus said quietly. "Vincent made you choose between the girl you loved and your father's life. No one should have to make that choice." Sophia emerged from her bedroom then, and the two young people stood looking at each other across the small living room. The bruises on Sophia's face had faded to yellow and green, but the marks on her throat remained visible, finger-shaped reminders of violence. "Dylan," she said softly. He took a step toward her, then stopped, uncertain. "I understand if you never want to see me again. What I did, there is no excuse." "You were scared," Sophia said. "You were trying to protect your father. I understand that. I still hurt you." "Yes," Sophia agreed. "You did. And that is something we both have to live with. But Dylan, you are not the enemy. Vincent is." And Dad stopped him. Dylan looked at Marcus then, really looked at him, and something passed between them. An understanding, a recognition that they were both survivors of Vincent's cruelty, both damaged by the choices evil men forced upon them. "Thank you," Dylan said to Marcus, "for saving my life, for saving all of us." Marcus nodded. "Just make sure it counts for something. Live well, live honest, be better than the people who hurt you." Dylan left soon after, and Marcus watched him go, hoping the kid would find peace somehow, hoping they all would. Eddie Malone came to visit on a Tuesday afternoon, smuggled in by Agent Chen through a back entrance to avoid cameras. The old man looked tired, his weathered face showing new lines, his shoulders bent under weight Marcus recognized all too well. They sat at the kitchen table, drinking coffee that tasted like burnt plastic, and Eddie told him what was happening back in Ashwood. "The club is tearing itself apart," Eddie said. "Vincent had more supporters than anyone realized. About 30% of the membership thinks you did the right thing, exposing a traitor. The other 70% thinks you betrayed the Brotherhood and deserve to die." Marcus absorbed this information without emotion. He had expected it. Loyalty to the code ran deep, even when the code protected monsters. "There was a vote," Eddie continued, "about your membership. It was not even close. You are out, Hammer, officially expelled. They took your patch, burned your vest, erased your name from the chapter roster." Marcus nodded slowly. After 40 years, it ended just like that. A vote, a burning, an erasure. "And the contract?" Marcus asked, though he already knew the answer. Eddie's silence confirmed it. "They put a price on your head," Eddie said finally. $50,000. Open contract. Anyone who brings proof of your death gets paid." Marcus laughed, a sound without humor. 50,000. After 40 years, that is what I am worth. "It is not about the money," Eddie said. "It is about the message that no one betrays the Brotherhood and lives." They sat in silence for a moment. Outside the apartment window, Portland went about its business. People walking dogs, driving cars, living normal lives that Marcus would never have again. "I do not regret it," Marcus said. "What I did. 9 people are alive because I talked. Sophia is safe. That is worth more than any patch or any Brotherhood." "I know," Eddie said. "Margaret would be proud." The mention of his wife's name hit Marcus harder than he expected. He closed his eyes, remembering her face, her voice, the way she used to look at him with a mixture of love and disappointment. "She begged me to leave," Marcus said quietly. "The club, the life. She said it would destroy us eventually. I told her I could not, that the angels were my family. She died thinking I chose them over her." "You did choose them over her," Eddie said bluntly. "But you did not choose them over Sophia. And maybe that is what matters." Marcus opened his eyes. "Is that supposed to make me feel better?" Eddie shrugged. "I am 68 years old, Hammer. I have been where you are. I left the club, remember? Walked away when everyone said I was a coward. For years I thought maybe they were right, but I am still here. Still alive. Still able to look at myself in the mirror. Can Vincent say the same?" "Vincent is going to prison for 20 years minimum," Marcus said. "The prosecutor thinks they might get 30. "Then you won," Eddie said simply. "Did I?" Marcus asked. "Look at me, Eddie, hiding in a safe house. My daughter traumatized. My name destroyed. 9 lives saved, yes, but at what cost?" "The cost of doing the right thing," Eddie said. "The cost is always high, Hammer. That is why so few people pay it. After Eddie left, Marcus stood at the window and looked down at the street. Somewhere out there, someone was hunting him. Maybe multiple someones. Professional killers or amateur angels looking to prove their loyalty. It did not matter. The result would be the same eventually. You could only run for so long before the past caught up. Sophia found him there as evening fell, the Portland lights beginning to glow against the darkening sky. "What are you thinking about?" she asked, slipping her arm through his. "Your mother," Marcus said. "How she used to stand at our kitchen window, just like this, looking out at the world, and I never understood what she was thinking about." "She was thinking about you," Sophia said. "About whether you would come home safe. About whether the club would take you away from us. She told me once when I was 16, she said loving you was like loving a storm. Beautiful and terrible and always dangerous." Marcus felt his throat tighten. "I failed her." "You did," Sophia agreed. "But you did not fail me. You chose me over everything. Over the club, over your safety, over 40 years of your life. That has to count for something. It counts for hiding in a safe house while people try to kill me." Sophia turned to face him fully, her hands gripping his arms. "Dad, listen to me. You saved 9 lives. You stopped a drug operation that would have poisoned thousands. You stood up to a monster when everyone else was too scared. Yes, there are consequences, but you did something real, something that matters." Marcus looked at his daughter and saw Margaret's strength in her, that same fierce determination to find meaning in suffering. "When did you become so wise?" he asked. "I learned from the best," Sophia said. "Eventually." That night, Marcus could not sleep. He lay in the unfamiliar bed in the safe house and stared at the ceiling, listening to the sounds of the city outside, sirens in the distance, traffic on the street below, the muffled television from a neighboring apartment. His phone buzzed on the nightstand, a text from an unknown number. "You cannot hide forever, Hammer. We know where you are. We are coming." Marcus deleted the text without responding, but sleep was impossible now. He got up and walked through the dark apartment to the kitchen, poured a glass of water, stood by the window looking out at the night. How many times had he stood like this over the years, in different houses, different cities, waiting for violence to find him? How many fights had he walked into, knowing he might not walk out? How many times had he rolled the dice and won through sheer luck and stubborn refusal to die? But he was 62 now, slower, weaker, and the people hunting him were younger, hungrier, more desperate to prove themselves. The question was not if they would find him. The question was when, and what he would do when they did. Agent Chen called the next morning with news. "We picked up chatter," she said. "3 members of the Devil's Hand are in Portland. We think they are looking for you." "The Devil's Hand," Marcus repeated. "Not the Angels. Vincent had connections," Agent Chen reminded him. "Just because he is in custody does not mean his reach ends. He probably put out his own contract, separate from the Hell's Angels. So now I have 2 organizations trying to kill me." "At least," Agent Chen said. "Maybe more." "You made a lot of enemies, Mr. Kane." Marcus almost laughed. "Story of my life." "We are moving you," Agent Chen said. "New safe house, better security. We leave tonight." "For how long?" Marcus asked. "As long as it takes." That is not an answer. Agent Chen was quiet for a moment. "The truth is, Mr. Kane, this does not end. Not really. You testified against major criminal organizations. You exposed corruption and violence. Those people do not forget. They do not forgive. So witness protection," Marcus said. "New identities, new lives." "If you want them," Agent Chen confirmed, "the marshals can relocate you and your daughter. New names, new city, new everything. You would be safe." Marcus thought about it. Starting over, becoming someone else, leaving Marcus Kane behind like a shed skin. But Marcus Kane, for all his flaws, for all his mistakes, was who he was. And he had just spent 40 years being loyal to the wrong people. He was not about to betray himself now. "No," Marcus said, "no new identities. We stay who we are. Even if it gets you killed," Agent Chen asked. "Especially then," Marcus said. "I spent 40 years hiding behind colors and patches and a road name. I am done hiding." Agent Chen sighed. "You are making this harder than it needs to be." "Story of my life," Marcus said again. They moved that night to a new location, this one further from downtown, in a quiet neighborhood where families walked dogs and kids played basketball in driveways. The new safe house was bigger, 3 bedrooms, a yard out back. Almost normal. Sophia enrolled in online classes, continuing her education from behind locked doors and martial protection. She video chatted with Dylan sometimes, awkward conversations where they tried to rebuild something from the ashes of trauma. Marcus was not sure it would work, was not sure broken things could ever be fully repaired, but he let her try. Dylan was seeing a therapist now, so was Sophia. The FBI had arranged counseling for all 9 of the former hostages, helping them process what Vincent had done to them. Marcus was glad for that. They were young, they still had time to heal. He was not so sure about himself. The weeks turned into months. Vincent's trial concluded with a guilty verdict on all counts. 28 years in federal prison with no possibility of parole. The judge called him a predator and a coward, and Vincent stood stone-faced through the sentencing. But his eyes found Marcus in the courtroom gallery one last time. "This is not over," those eyes said. "Prison is just another place. I still have reach." Marcus believed him. The Hells Angels chapter in Ashwood disbanded after the trial. Too much attention, too much heat from law enforcement. The members scattered to other chapters or disappeared into normal life. Eddie kept the bar open, a neutral ground where former brothers could drink and remember better days. Eddie called Marcus sometimes, late at night, and they would talk for hours about nothing and everything. About getting old, about regret, about whether redemption was possible for men like them. "I think about Ricky Morrison every day," Eddie confessed one night. "That kid I let die 45 years ago. I wonder if telling his story to you, if helping you make the right choice, if that counts as making amends." "It counts," Marcus assured him. "It has to count." Winter came to Portland, bringing rain that never seemed to stop. Marcus watched it from the windows of the safe house, this endless gray deluge that matched his mood. He was safe, yes. Sophia was safe, the monsters were behind bars. But he was adrift, unmoored. A man without a brotherhood, without a purpose, without the identity that had defined him for 4 decades. Who was Marcus Kane if he was not Hammer of the Hells Angels? He was trying to figure that out. Sophia caught him one evening sitting in the dark living room, just staring at nothing. "You are thinking too much," she said, settling onto the couch beside him. "Occupational hazard," Marcus replied. "Talk to me, Dad, please." Marcus looked at his daughter, this beautiful, strong young woman who had survived so much. "I do not know who I am anymore," he admitted. "Everything I was, everything I built, it is gone. I am 62 years old and starting over like a kid." "You are my father," Sophia said. "You are the man who saved 9 lives. You are the man who chose justice over loyalty. That is who you are. Is it enough?" "It is more than most people ever do," Sophia said. "It is more than enough." Marcus wanted to believe her. He really did. But late that night, lying in bed, listening to the rain against the window, he could not shake the feeling that the bill was still coming due. That somewhere out there, someone was still hunting him. That Vincent's reach extended further than prison walls. That the reckoning was not over yet. His phone buzzed. Another unknown number. Another text. Soon, Hammer. Very soon. Marcus deleted it. But he slept with the Glock under his pillow, safety off, 1 round in the chamber. Just in case. Because he knew the truth that Agent Chen would not say, that the marshals would not admit, that even Sophia refused to acknowledge. Men like Vincent never stopped. Prison was just a pause, a delay. But the game continued. And Marcus Kane, no longer Hammer, no longer a Hell's Angel, was still a piece on the board. The only question was how many moves he had left before checkmate. 6 months after the trial ended, Marcus Kane stood in the kitchen of the safe house watching coffee drip into a pot, the sound of it steady and rhythmic like a heartbeat. Outside the window, Portland's spring morning painted everything in soft gold light, cherry blossoms drifting past on a breeze that carried the promise of renewal. Inside, Marcus felt the weight of waiting, of knowing that peace was always temporary, that violence deferred was not violence avoided. Agent Chen had stopped visiting as frequently. The threat assessment had been downgraded twice, from critical to elevated to now just moderate. The U.S. Marshals had reduced protection to 1 agent during the day, none at night. Budget constraints, they said. Other cases demanding resources. Marcus understood. In the calculus of federal protection, a 62-year-old former biker was not a high priority. He did not blame them. He had made his choices. He would live with the consequences. Sophia had bloomed in these months of safety, returning to something like her old self. She had enrolled in Portland State University, taking classes in person now rather than online. Psychology major, following the dream her mother had encouraged years ago. She wanted to help people who had been through trauma, wanted to turn her own pain into something useful. Marcus was proud of her in ways he could not articulate. She had survived Vincent's cruelty and come out stronger. She had forgiven Dylan, though they were no longer together, both of them recognizing that some relationships could not survive the weight of what had been done. She had even forgiven Marcus for the 40 years he had spent being the wrong kind of father. That last part meant more to him than she would ever know. Dylan Parker had left Oregon entirely, transferring to a college in Vermont where no one knew his story. He sent Sophia emails sometimes, updates on his therapy, his classes, his slow reconstruction of a life that had been shattered. Marcus hoped the kid would make it. Not everyone did. The coffee finished brewing and Marcus poured 2 cups, carrying one to Sophia's room. She sat at her desk, laptop open, typing notes from a lecture she had recorded. She looked up when he entered and smiled. That same smile Margaret used to give him on quiet mornings before the world intruded. "Morning, Dad. Morning, sweetheart." Marcus set the coffee on her desk. "How is the paper coming?" "Almost done. Another 3 pages and I can finally submit this monster." Sophia stretched, her arms above her head, and Marcus saw the faint scars on her wrists from where the zip ties had cut into her skin during her brief captivity. Vincent's men had grabbed her during the final week before the trial, a last desperate attempt to force Marcus to recant his testimony. They had held her for 18 hours before the FBI could found her. It had been the longest 18 hours of Marcus's life. But she was here. She was alive. She was healing. That was all that mattered. "I am going to the store," Marcus said. "We need groceries. You want anything special?" Sophia considered. "Ice cream, that coffee-flavored kind I like." "You got it." Marcus kissed the top of her head. "Lock the door behind me. Text me if anything feels wrong." "Dad, I will be fine. We have been safe for months." "Humor me," Marcus said. She rolled her eyes but smiled. "Fine. I will lock the door and text you every 5 minutes and probably call Agent Chen if a squirrel looks at me funny." Marcus chuckled despite himself. "Smart Alec. I learned from the best." The grocery store was 3 blocks away, a safe way that Marcus had come to know well over the past months. He walked rather than drove, enjoying the spring air, the normalcy of it. People passed him on the sidewalk, mothers with strollers, old men walking bonds, teenagers on skateboards. No one looked twice at him. He was just another older man in jeans and a denim jacket. Nothing special, nothing worth noticing. That anonymity was both a blessing and a curse. He was safe because he was invisible. But he was invisible because everything that had made him Marcus Kane had been stripped away. No colors, no patch, no brotherhood. Just a man with a past he could not escape and a future he could not see. The store was busy for a weekday morning, people filling carts with food and household goods, living their ordinary lives. Marcus moved through the aisles with practiced efficiency, grabbing milk, bread, eggs, the coffee ice cream Sophia wanted. At the checkout, he made small talk with the cashier, a young woman with pink hair and multiple piercings who called him sir and probably thought he was somebody's grandfather. Maybe he would be someday, if he lived long enough, if Sophia found someone worth keeping, if the past stopped hunting him long enough to let him have a future. Walking back toward the safe house, grocery bags in both hands, Marcus felt the prickle at the back of his neck that combat veterans and career criminals learn to trust. The sensation that said you are being watched, that said danger is close. He did not react visibly, did not turn around or change his pace, just kept walking, kept his breathing steady, let his peripheral vision sweep the street, looking for what did not belong, for the car parked too long, for the person whose gaze followed too intently, for the shape of a gun hidden under a jacket. There, half a block back, a black SUV with tinted windows, engine running, parked in a loading zone. It had not been there when Marcus walked to the store 20 minutes ago. Marcus adjusted his grip on the grocery bags and kept walking. His apartment was still 2 blocks away. Too far to run. Too far to fight with his hands full. He needed to know if this was real threat or paranoia before he made a move. The SUV pulled out and began following him, staying half a block back, matching his pace. Real threat then. Marcus's mind went cold and tactical. 40 years of violence coming back like muscle memory. 3 possible plays. 1, drop the bags and run. 2, drop the bags and fight. 3, keep walking and hope they wanted him alive enough to wait for a better opportunity. He chose option 3. Fighting in the street with civilians around meant collateral damage. Running meant leaving Sophia unprotected if there were more of them. Better to draw them out, learn how many there were, what they wanted. He turned the corner onto his street and the SUV followed. Marcus climbed the steps to his building and the SUV stopped at the curb. Still no one got out. They were waiting for something. For him to be alone, Marcus realized. For witnesses to clear. For the perfect moment. Inside the building, Marcus took the stairs instead of the elevator, moving fast now, groceries forgotten on the landing. He pulled out his phone and called Sophia. She answered on the first ring. Dad, what is wrong? Pack a bag, Marcus said, his voice flat and urgent. Right now. Clothes, documents, nothing else. We are leaving in 2 minutes. Dad, what happened? They found us. I am coming up now. Be ready. He burst through the apartment door and found Sophia already moving, throwing clothes into a backpack, her laptop, charger, wallet. She had learned to trust his instincts, learned that when he said move, you moved. Marcus went to his bedroom and grabbed his own bag, pre-packed for this exact scenario. Then he retrieved the Glock from the lockbox in his closet, checked the magazine, chambered around. He grabbed a second weapon, a snub-nosed revolver, and handed it to Sophia. You remember what I taught you, he asked. Point, squeeze, do not pull, Sophia recited, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. Good girl. Marcus looked out the window. The black SUV still sat at the curb. No movement yet, but they would come soon. Fire escape, Marcus said. We go out the back, down the alley, and we do not stop until we reach Eddie's bar. Eddie is 4 hours away, Sophia protested. Then we drive for 4 hours, Marcus said. Let's go. They moved quickly and quietly, out the bedroom window onto the fire escape, down the metal stairs that clanged softly under their weight. The alley below was empty, dumpsters and recycling bins providing cover. Marcus went first, gun drawn, checking corners like he was clearing a hostile building, and the alley opened onto a side street 1 block over from where the SUV waited. Marcus's truck, a battered Ford F-150 he had bought for cash 3 months ago, sat parked at a meter. He had kept it here instead of the building's garage for exactly this reason. Always have an exit strategy. They were 20 feet from the truck when the first shot rang out. The bullet hit the brick wall beside Marcus's head, chips of masonry exploding outward. Marcus shoved Sophia behind a parked car and spun, gun up, searching for the shooter. There, on a rooftop across the street. Single shooter, rifle, maybe 200 yards out. Professional setup. This was not some angry angel looking for revenge money. This was a paid hit. Marcus returned fire, 3 quick shots to force the sniper's head down, then grabbed Sophia's arm and ran for the truck. More shots followed them, one punching through the truck's rear window, another taking out the side mirror. Marcus threw open the driver's door, practically threw Sophia inside and dove in after her. The engine roared to life and Marcus floored it, tires screaming as they fishtailed out of the parking space. Behind them, the black SUV came around the corner, giving chase. Call Agent Chen, Marcus ordered, threading through traffic, running a red light, taking a corner too fast and feeling the truck lean hard. Sophia already had her phone out, dialing. Agent Chen, we are under attack. Shots fired. We are in Dad's truck heading east on Burnside. Rahuang. Black SUV chasing us. Registration number, she squinted at the SUV in the side mirror. 7 Charlie X-ray 942. Marcus took another corner, nearly clipping a bicycle courier who screamed obscenities at them. The SUV stayed close, professional drivers who knew what they were doing. How many in pursuit? Agent Chen's voice came through the speaker. Just 1 vehicle that we can see, Sophia said. But there was a sniper. Get to a police station, Agent Chen ordered. I am sending units now. Negative, Marcus said, his voice hard. If we stop, they will hit us in the parking lot. We need distance. Mr. Kane, this is not a suggestion. With respect, Agent Chen, I have been running from people trying to kill me longer than you have been alive, Marcus said. We do what I say or we die. Your choice. A pause, then Agent Chen's resigned voice. Fine, where are you going? Ashwood, Marcus said. We are going home. He took the on-ramp to I-84 at 60 miles per hour, cutting across 3 lanes of traffic, horns blaring in their wake. The SUV followed, relentless. Marcus pushed the truck to 80, weaving through traffic, but the SUV kept pace. They are going to try to run us off the road, Marcus said. When they do, you duck down and stay down. Dad, Sophia's voice shook. You are going to be fine, Marcus said with more confidence than he felt. I promise. The SUV accelerated, pulling alongside them in the left lane. Marcus saw the passenger window roll down, saw the gun barrel emerge, and he hit the brakes hard. The truck decelerated violently, throwing them both forward against their seatbelts. The SUV shot past, the gunman's shots going wide, punching holes in empty air. Marcus jerked the wheel right, taking an exit at the last second, tires smoking. The SUV tried to follow but could not make the turn, disappearing up the highway. But Marcus knew they would circle back, knew this was just a delay. He took surface streets now, zigging and zagging through Portland's east side, doubling back, taking alleys, doing everything he could to break a tail. After 20 minutes of evasive driving, he was reasonably sure they were alone. Reasonably sure was not good enough, but it was all he had. They drove in silence for a while, the adrenaline slowly draining, leaving behind exhaustion and the shakes. Sophia kept checking the mirrors, her hand tight on the revolver in her lap. "How did they find us?" she finally asked. Marcus shook his head. "Could be anything. Could be someone at the Marshal Service on Vincent's payroll. Could be a private investigator. Could be dumb luck. Does not matter now. What matters is they found us once. They can find us again," Sophia said. "Yes," Marcus agreed. "So where do we go? We cannot hide forever." Marcus looked at his daughter, seeing Margaret's fire in her eyes, that refusal to back down that had made him fall in love 40 years ago. "We do not hide," Marcus said. "We end this." "How?" "Vincent is the head of the snake," Marcus said. "As long as he is alive, as long as he can put out contracts and pay killers, we are not safe. We have to cut off the head. He is in federal prison, Dad. We cannot exactly walk in and shoot him." "No," Marcus agreed, "but we can make him irrelevant." Sophia stared at him. "What are you thinking? Vincent's power comes from his connections, from his money, from his reputation. If we take those away, he is just another con in a cell. No reach, no threat. And how do we take those away?" Sophia asked. "We find the people holding his money," Marcus said. "We expose every dirty cop, every corrupt official, every criminal connection he has. We burn his empire to the ground so thoroughly that no one will work with him anymore. He becomes toxic, untouchable. That is," Sophia paused, searching for words, "ambitious." Marcus smiled grimly. "I spent 40 years building networks. I know how they work. I know where the weak points are. We hit those weak points hard enough, the whole structure collapses." They drove for another hour before stopping at a rest area outside the Dalles. Marcus parked far from other vehicles, where he could watch all approaches. They sat in the truck, eating vending machine sandwiches that tasted like cardboard, and Marcus made phone calls. First Eddie. The old man answered on the second ring. "Hammer," Eddie said, and Marcus did not correct the use of his old road name. "What is going on? I heard police chatter about a shooting in Portland." Marcus filled him in. The attack, the chase, the plan. Eddie was quiet for a long moment. "You are talking about going to war, Hammer, against Vincent's entire organization." "I am talking about survival," Marcus corrected. "They will not stop coming, you know that. So we make it so expensive, so dangerous, so toxic to hunt us that they give up. Or you die trying," Eddie said. "That too," Marcus admitted. "You in or out?" Another pause. Then Eddie sighed. "I am 68 years old. I should be fishing and watching game shows. But yeah, I am in. Tell me what you need." "I need names," Marcus said. "Everyone Vincent worked with, every dirty deal he made, every skeleton in every closet." "I know you kept records, Eddie. You were always the smart one." "I got records," Eddie confirmed. 30 years of them. I will pull everything I have." Second call went to Agent Chen. She answered immediately. "Mr. Kane, where are you? Safe?" Marcus said. "For now, you need to come in. Protective custody." "That worked out real well," Marcus said flatly. "Someone leaked our location. Someone inside your organization or the Marshals. We do not know that. I know it," Marcus said. "And I am not betting my daughter's life on your internal security. So here is what is going to happen. I am going to take down Vincent's entire network. Every connection, every source of income, every dirty official. I am going to hand you the biggest organized crime case Oregon has seen in 20 years. In exchange, you give me immunity and you put Vincent in solitary confinement where he cannot communicate with the outside world." "That is not how this works," Agent Chen said. "That is exactly how this works," Marcus countered. "Because if Vincent can still reach out and touch us from prison, then your prosecution was worthless. He won, and you lost. So you can either help me finish this, or you can explain to your supervisors why a witness you were supposed to protect ended up dead." He heard Agent Chen breathing on the other end of the line, weighing her options, weighing her career against doing what was right. "What do you need?" she finally asked. "Everything you have on Vincent's financial records," Marcus said. "Bank accounts, shell companies, property holdings, all of it. And I need it yesterday." I will see what I can do, Agent Chen said. But Mr. Kane, if you are planning what I think you are planning, you need to be very careful. These people do not play by rules. Neither do I, Marcus said. Not anymore. They reached Ashwood as the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple that reminded Marcus of bruises. The town looked the same as always, small and quiet, the kind of place where everyone knew everyone, and secrets were hard to keep. The Hells Angels clubhouse stood empty now, windows boarded up, paint fading, a ghost of what had been. Eddie's bar was still open, the neon Budweiser sign glowing warm in the gathering darkness. Marcus parked around back and he and Sophia went in through the rear entrance. Eddie sat at a table in the empty bar surrounded by boxes of files and ledgers, decades of carefully kept records that detailed every crime, every deal, every sin the Hells Angels had committed. Eddie looked up when they entered, and Marcus saw the worry in the old man's eyes. "You look like hell, Hammer. Feel worse," Marcus admitted. They sat, the three of them, and Eddie pushed a file across the table. "This is everything I have on Vincent's operation. Names, dates, amounts. He was skimming from the club for 15 years before he made his move with the Devil's Hand. Millions of dollars funneled through shell corporations and offshore accounts." Marcus opened the file and scanned the contents. It was detailed, meticulous, exactly what he needed. "Where did you get all this?" "I was the club treasurer for 10 years, Eddie said. "I kept two sets of books, the official ones and the real ones. I always knew someone might need leverage someday." "You are a devious old man," Marcus said with appreciation. "I learned from the best," Eddie replied. "So what is the play?" Marcus spread out papers on the table, creating a map of Vincent's network. "We hit 3 targets simultaneously. First, we leak these financial records to the FBI and the IRS. Let the feds seize every account, every property, every asset Vincent has. Second, we expose the corrupt officials on his payroll. Names, dates, payment amounts. Let their own departments investigate. Third, we reach out to the Devil's Hand leadership and offer them a deal. Information on Vincent's operation in exchange for them pulling their contract on us." "The Devil's Hand will never deal with a snitch," Eddie said. "They will if the alternative is losing their entire West Coast operation," Marcus said. "Vincent kept records on them too. Insurance policy in case they turned on him. We offer those records as a gesture of good faith, along with the locations of Vincent's hidden drug stashes. The Hand gets product and leverage. We get them off our backs." That is, Eddie shook his head in amazement. "Actually pretty smart." "I have had 6 months to think about it," Marcus said. Sophia had been quiet, listening, but now she spoke up. "What about the people who attacked us today? The sniper, the SUV, they are still out there." "Hired muscle," Marcus said. "Probably freelance, paid up front for one job. Once Vincent's money dries up, once word spreads that anyone working for him becomes an FBI target, the contracts will dry up. No one will risk it. And if they already got paid," Sophia pressed, "then we deal with them," Marcus said grimly. "The old-fashioned way." They worked through the night, Eddie making copies of documents, Sophia organizing files, Marcus making phone calls to old contacts he had not spoken to in years. People who owed him favors. People who remembered when Marcus Kane was Hammer of the Hells Angels and carried weight in the underworld. By dawn, they had a plan. By noon, they had set it in motion. Agent Chen came through with Vincent's financial records from the FBI investigation. Marcus added Eddie's records and created a comprehensive package showing 15 years of money laundering, tax evasion, and fraud. He sent it anonymously to the FBI, the IRS, and 3 major newspapers. The story broke within hours. Federal indictment expands in Hells Angels case. Millions in hidden assets discovered. The news coverage was everywhere. Vincent's mugshot plastered across every screen, every website. Phase 1 complete. Phase 2 came 2 days later. Marcus compiled a list of 10 officials on Vincent's payroll, cops, judges, city council members. He included bank records showing payments, phone logs showing communications, meeting notes that Eddie had kept. He sent the package to internal affairs divisions, to state investigators, to journalists who specialized in corruption. The fallout was immediate and spectacular. Arrests, resignations, investigations. The mayor of a small town north of Portland was let out of City Hall in handcuffs. 2 police officers were suspended. A county judge retired suddenly, citing health reasons. Vincent's protection network was collapsing. Phase 3 was the most dangerous. Marcus reached out through intermediaries to the Devil's Hand, offering a meet. Neutral ground. No weapons. Just talk. They agreed to meet at a warehouse outside Portland, empty and isolated. Marcus went alone despite Sophia's protests, despite Eddie's warnings. This had to be him. Face to face. Man to man. 3 Devil's Hand members showed up, hard men with dead eyes who had seen and done terrible things. Their leader was a man called Reaper, probably 40 years old with a shaved head and tattoos covering every inch of visible skin. You got nerve, Reaper said, showing your face here. Marcus stood his ground. I have information you want, and a proposal that benefits us both. Talk, Reaper said. Marcus laid it out. Vincent's records on the Devil's Hand operation, distribution networks, safe houses, supply chains, all of it. He offered to hand over everything in exchange for the contract on him being canceled. Reaper studied the sample documents Marcus had brought. His expression did not change, but Marcus saw the calculation in his eyes. This was leverage. This was power. Vincent betrayed you, Marcus said. He was planning to cut you out, use you for the import connections, then eliminate you and take over the whole operation himself. It is all in his notes. You were always expendable to him. And you are giving us this why, Reaper asked. Because I want to live, Marcus said simply. And because Vincent hurt my daughter, the enemy of my enemy. Reaper was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. Contract is canceled. You and yours walk away clean. But Kane, if you ever cross us, if these documents turn out to be fake or incomplete, we will burn your world to ashes. They are real, Marcus said, and you will never see me again. I am done with this life. They shook hands, and Marcus walked out of that warehouse, knowing he had just made a deal with the devil. But devils you could negotiate with were better than devils who hunted you in the dark. 2 weeks later, Vincent Castellano was moved to a federal supermax prison in Colorado, placed in solitary confinement, all communications monitored. His assets were frozen. His network was shattered. His power was broken. The contract on Marcus Kane was officially dead. Marcus and Sophia stood on the porch of a small house they had rented in Ashwood, watching the sun set over the mountains. It had been a year since that terrible night when Marcus found his daughter beaten and broken. A year of running, hiding, fighting, surviving. But they had survived. You know we can never really be safe, Sophia said quietly. There will always be someone. I know, Marcus said, but safe enough is better than nothing. Sophia leaned against her father, and Marcus wrapped his arm around her shoulders. They stood like that for a long time, watching the light fade from the sky. Dylan sent me an email, Sophia said. He is doing well, engaged to a girl he met in Vermont. He wanted us to know. I am happy for him, Marcus said, and meant it. He said he thinks about us sometimes, about what happened, about how you saved his life. I did what any father would do, Marcus said. Not any father, Sophia corrected. Most fathers would have chosen revenge. You chose justice. There is a difference. Marcus thought about that, about the choice he had made, about the 40 years he had wasted serving the wrong masters, about the price he had paid and the peace he had finally found. Your mother would be proud of you, Sophia said, echoing what Eddie had told him a lifetime ago. I hope so, Marcus said. I really do. Inside the house, Marcus's phone rang. Agent Chen. Mr. Kane, she said when he answered. Thought you should know. Vincent Castellano was attacked in prison this morning, stabbed by another inmate. He is in critical condition. Marcus felt nothing at the news. No satisfaction, no remorse, just a distant acknowledgement of inevitable consequences. Thank you for letting me know, he said. One more thing, Agent Chen said. The attacker was a Devil's Hand member serving time for murder. I think someone wanted to make sure Vincent could not rebuild his network from inside. Marcus understood. Reaper had eliminated the loose end, had made sure Vincent Castellano would never be a threat again. It is over, Agent Chen said. Really over. You can stop looking over your shoulder. Can I? Marcus asked. As over as things like this get, Agent Chen amended, but yes, you and Sophia are clear. The marshals are officially closing your file. After he hung up, Marcus sat on the porch steps and let that sink in. Over. After a year of running, after 40 years of violence. Over. Sophia came out and sat beside him. What did Agent Chen want? Marcus told her about Vincent, about the attack, about the file being closed. Sophia was quiet for a moment. Is it wrong that I do not feel bad, she asked. About Vincent being hurt? No, Marcus said. It is human. They sat together as darkness fell completely, stars emerging one by one overhead. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked. A car passed on the street. Normal sounds of a normal evening in a normal town. Eddie came by later that night with groceries and beer. The three of them sat in the small kitchen and talked about nothing important. Baseball, weather, the new stoplight they were installing on Main Street. Normal conversation. Normal life. "This is strange," Eddie said at one point. "Sitting here like regular people." "We are regular people," Sophia said. Eddie and Marcus looked at each other and laughed. "Speak for yourself, kid," Eddie said. But maybe she was right, Marcus thought. Maybe after everything, after all the violence and the running and the fear, maybe they could just be regular people. A father and daughter and an old friend, living quiet lives, bothering no one, healing slowly. That night, Marcus lay in bed in his new house and thought about Margaret, about how she had begged him to leave the Angels, to choose family over brotherhood. He had been too stubborn, too proud, too loyal to the wrong things. But maybe finally he had learned. Maybe it was not too late to become the man she had wanted him to be. He thought about the 9 people whose lives he had saved, about Dylan and the 8 others who were out there somewhere, living and loving and building futures they almost did not get to have. That had to count for something. That had to balance the scales at least a little bit. Sleep came eventually, deep and dreamless, and for the first time in a year, Marcus did not wake up reaching for a gun. In the morning, he made coffee and breakfast for Sophia. She came out of her room in sweatpants and a college t-shirt, hair messy, looking young and alive and whole. "Morning, Dad. Morning, sweetheart." They ate together in comfortable silence, sunlight streaming through the kitchen window, warming everything it touched. After breakfast, Sophia left for class and Marcus cleaned up the dishes. He looked around the small house at the life they were building, at the peace they had earned. It was not much, but it was theirs. And it was honest. That afternoon, Eddie called. "Get down to the bar," he said. "Got someone here who wants to meet you." "Who?" Marcus asked. "Just come," Eddie said. Marcus drove to the Blue Moon, walked through the door, and found Eddie behind the bar with a young man Marcus did not recognize. The kid was maybe 25, with nervous eyes and hands that would not stay still. "This is Tommy," Eddie said. "Tommy, this is Marcus Kane. I know who you are," Tommy said quietly. "You are the guy who brought down Vincent Castellano." Marcus waited. "My sister was one of the 9 people you saved," Tommy said. "Kelly Morrison. She was with Dylan Parker that night at the docks." Marcus remembered the name from the police reports. A 19-year-old girl. Wrong place, wrong time. "She is alive because of you," Tommy continued. "And I wanted to say thank you. To your face. Kelly is back in school now. She is doing good. And it is because you did the right thing when it would have been easier not to." Marcus did not know what to say. He had never thought about gratitude, had never expected thanks. He had done what he had to do, what any father would do. But looking at this young man, seeing the genuine appreciation in his eyes, Marcus felt something shift inside him. Maybe redemption was not a grand gesture. Maybe it was just this. One person at a time. One life saved. One thank you offered. "Take care of your sister," Marcus finally said. "Make sure she knows she has people who love her." "I will," Tommy promised. After Tommy left, Eddie poured 2 beers and slid one across the bar to Marcus. 9 lives saved," Eddie said. "Kelly Morrison, Dylan Parker, 7 others, 9 families that still have their kids. That is your legacy now, Hammer, not the 40 years with the Angels. This." Marcus drank his beer and thought about legacy, about what he would leave behind when he was gone. Not colors or patches or stories of violence, but 9 people who got to keep living. That was enough, more than enough. That evening, Marcus picked up Sophia from campus. They drove home together, talking about her classes, her professors, her plans for the future. Normal conversation between a father and daughter. Normal life. At a stoplight, Sophia turned to him. "Dad, are you happy?" Marcus thought about it, considered the question honestly. "I am getting there," he said, "one day at a time." Sophia smiled. "Good. You deserve to be happy. So do you, sweetheart." "I am," Sophia said, finally. The light changed and they drove home, and Marcus realized that this was it. This was what he had been fighting for. Not survival, not revenge, just this. Normal moments with his daughter, peace, safety, a chance to build something new from the ruins of what had been. 6 months later, Marcus Kane stood in the backyard of his house building a garden. He had never gardened before, but Sophia had suggested it, and he found he liked the work, liked getting his hands dirty, liked watching things grow. Eddie came by most days, helping with the heavier work. The 2 old men moving slower now, but still moving. Still here, still alive. Sophia graduated with honors and got accepted to graduate school. She moved into her own apartment, but came home for dinner twice a week, and those dinners were the highlights of Marcus's life. Dylan sent a wedding invitation. Vermont in the fall. Beautiful venue. Sophia decided to go and asked Marcus to come with her. He agreed. It would be good to see the kid happy. Good to see all of them had found their way through the darkness. On Sophia's graduation day, Marcus sat in the audience wearing his only suit, watching his daughter walk across the stage to receive her diploma. The dean called her name, Sophia Kane, Bachelor of Science in Psychology, magna cum laude. Marcus stood and clapped until his hands hurt, and he did not care who saw the tears on his face. That night at the celebration dinner, Sophia raised her glass. "To my dad," she said, "who taught me that it is never too late to change, who showed me that doing the right thing is always worth the cost, who saved 9 lives, including mine." Marcus raised his glass but could not speak. His throat was too tight, his heart too full. Later, driving home alone, Marcus thought about Margaret, about how she would feel seeing Sophia now, seeing what their daughter had become, strong and smart and kind, despite everything that had tried to break her. "We did good, Maggie," Marcus whispered to the empty truck. "She turned out better than either of us." The years passed quietly after that. Marcus worked odd jobs, mostly mechanic work, fixing bikes and cars for people who knew him only as the quiet older man with the steady hands and the deep knowledge of engines. He volunteered at a youth center, teaching kids how to change oil and fix flat tires, giving them skills they could use. He never told anyone about his past, about the Hells Angels, about Vincent Castellano, about the year he spent running from assassins. That part of his life was over, buried, forgotten. Sometimes, late at night, he would think about the men he had hurt over the years, the bones he had broken, the blood he had spilled. And he would wonder if 9 lives saved balanced against all that damage. He did not know. Maybe it did not matter. Maybe all that mattered was that he had tried, at the end, to be better than he had been. On a spring morning 5 years after Vincent Castellano went to prison, Marcus received word that Vincent had died. Prison complications, the official report said. Marcus suspected it was more than that. Suspected that Reaper or someone else had decided Vincent was still too dangerous even behind bars. Marcus felt nothing at the news. Vincent was already dead to him. Had been for years. That evening, Sophia came over for dinner with her fiancé, a quiet man named James who taught high school English and treated Sophia like she was precious. Marcus approved. Over dessert, Sophia announced that she was pregnant, 3 months along, a girl. Marcus set down his coffee cup carefully, afraid his shaking hands would drop it. "A granddaughter," he said, his voice rough. Sophia nodded, smiling. "We want to name her Margaret, after Grandma." And just like that, Marcus was crying again. This tough old man who had spent 40 years pretending he had no tears left to shed. "She would have loved that," he managed to say. "I know," Sophia said. "That is why we chose it." That night, alone in his house, Marcus looked at the photo of Margaret that sat on his nightstand. The same photo that had been there for 15 years, her smile frozen in time, her eyes holding all the love and disappointment she had felt for him. "We are going to have a granddaughter," he told her photo, "and she is going to know about you, about how strong you were, about how much you loved us, and she is never going to see the darkness we lived through. She gets to grow up safe." He thought Margaret would have liked that. 6 months later, Marcus held his granddaughter for the first time. Margaret Rose, they named her. Maggie for short. She was tiny and perfect, and when she wrapped her impossibly small hand around his finger, Marcus felt something break open in his chest. This, he thought, this is why I survived. This is what it was all for. Sophia watched him holding the baby, and she smiled. "You are going to be a great grandfather, Dad. I am going to try," Marcus said. And he did. Over the years that followed, he was there for every birthday, every milestone, every moment. He taught Maggie to ride a bike, took her fishing, read her stories, was the grandfather he had never had the chance to be to Sophia when she was growing up. He never told Maggie about the Hells Angels, about Vincent, about the violence and the running and the fear. She knew her grandfather as a gentle man who fixed things and told silly jokes and always had butterscotch candies in his pocket. That was enough. More than enough. On Marcus Kane's 70th birthday, they threw him a party at Eddie's bar. 40 people showed up. Sophia and James and Maggie, Eddie, of course, former co-workers, people from the youth center, the young man Tommy Morrison whose sister Kelly Marcus had saved, now with a family of his own. They ate cake and told stories and celebrated 7 decades of a life that had been hard and violent and messy, but that had ended in something like grace. Late in the evening, when most people had left, Marcus sat with Eddie at the bar. Just the two old men nursing beers, comfortable in the silence. "We made it," Eddie said finally. "Who would have thought?" "Not me," Marcus admitted. "What would you tell yourself," Eddie asked, "if you could go back? Talk to the 22-year-old kid who was about to join the Angels. What would you say?" Marcus thought about it. "That was harder than I thought it would be," he said finally. "The answer." Eddie waited. "I would tell him," Marcus said slowly, "that the brotherhood he is looking for is not in a motorcycle club. It is in family, in doing right by the people you love, in standing up when it costs you everything. That is brotherhood. The rest is just colors and patches and empty promises." "Think he would listen?" Eddie asked. "No," Marcus said and laughed. "I was too stupid to listen. Had to learn the hard way." "Most of us do," Eddie said. They sat in comfortable silence for a while longer, two old warriors who had survived when so many others had not. Before Marcus left, Eddie stopped him at the door. "You are a good man, Hammer," Eddie said, using the old road name for the first time in years. "You made mistakes. We all did. But you fixed them, you saved lives, you protected your daughter. You became someone worth remembering." Marcus gripped Eddie's shoulder. "So did you, old friend. So did you." Driving home that night, Marcus passed the old Hells Angels clubhouse. It had been torn down years ago, replaced by a coffee shop and a boutique. Nothing remained of what had been. Marcus did not mourn it. He went home to his house, where photos of Sophia and Maggie covered the walls, where Margaret's picture still sat on his nightstand, where everything was simple and clean and honest. He went to bed that night at 70 years old, alive and free and at peace. And if the ghosts of his past came to visit in his dreams, he faced them without fear. Because Marcus Kane had learned the hardest lesson there is, that redemption is not about erasing your sins, it is about spending the rest of your life doing better. And that is enough. More than enough. It is everything.